There are moments in every man's life where he is sent far from home, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. For Johnny Cash, that moment came with the roar of an airplane engine and the cold unfamiliarity of Germany, where he served in the United States Air Force beginning in 1950. Assigned as a Morse code operator intercepting Soviet transmissions, Johnny was stationed in Landsberg, far from the cotton fields of Arkansas, and even further from the warmth of his mother's hymns. But it was here, among the static of Cold War signals and the silence of long nights, that the man who would one day become the man in black began to listen. Not to what was around him, but to what was within. He used his modest military pay to buy a guitar, simple, second-hand, but sacred. It wasn't just an instrument, it was a lifeline. He played in his barracks, wrote letters home, and began scribbling down songs on scraps of military paper. One of those songs was Folsom Prison Blues, written not from experience, but from empathy. Inspired by a prison documentary he'd seen, Cash imagined the despair of a man watching life go by from behind bars. "I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die," he wrote, an unforgettable line that would haunt, elevate, and define him. These weren't just lyrics, these were confessions in waiting. Already, Cash was weaving together the threads of darkness and light that would define his career. Though he had never stepped foot inside a prison, he felt like an outsider in his own soul, disconnected, unanchored, yet alive with an urgent need to express something honest, something that burned. And yet, for all the creative ignition he found in Germany, there was a fracture underneath, a spiritual one. The faith that had once grounded him in Arkansas now felt distant. God was still there, but behind a kind of fog. Johnny wrestled with purpose and temptation even then. He smoked too much, drank too much, felt too much. The boy who once sang in gospel quartets was now humming blues in his barracks. His soul was caught somewhere between salvation and sin, even as his talent began to stretch toward destiny. When he returned to civilian life in 1954, newly married and filled with ambition, he brought with him a vision. He didn't just want to sing, he needed to. Music wasn't just a passion. It was therapy. It was survival. Cash tried his hand at door-to-door appliance sales in Memphis, but the music kept calling. Nights were spent playing and writing. Days were filled with dead-end jobs and rejection. But Johnny knew he had something different. He wasn't trying to fit in. He was trying to break through. His sound was spare, haunting, and honest. It came from a place most people tried to hide. That's what made it irresistible. This was the awakening, not of a star, but of a storyteller. One who had seen loneliness, worn a uniform, stood at the edge of something dark, and walked back with a guitar full of truth. Johnny Cash had not yet faced his worst temptations or found his greatest redemption. But in these formative years, something undeniable began to take shape. He had tapped into a current that flowed far deeper than charts or sales or fame. It was the current of the human condition, the one that runs through prisons and pulpits, across oceans and borders, through guilt and grace alike. He didn't just want to sing songs, he wanted to tell truths. And his truths, as we'll see, were just beginning to echo.